Control is the illusion that the ego clings to when it's terrified of the unknown. But the truth is, the more you try to manage every detail of your life, the more you block the very energy that allows reality to unfold in your favor. You tighten your grip, thinking it brings safety, but in quantum terms, excessive interference distorts the natural collapse of possibility into form. Just like in quantum observation, where measuring too precisely alters the result, micromanaging. Your life sends out a signal of mistrust. Imagine someone trying to attract abundance while obsessively calculating, multitasking, and overworking not from inspiration, but from fear that there won't be enough. That energy becomes their message to the field. I don't trust. Control is not clarity, it's contraction. It creates tension, not transmission. The ego frames control as responsibility, but in truth, it is a mask for insecurity. You're not holding it together, you're holding it back. There's a reason why magic happens when you finally give up trying to force it and just allow it. When you stop checking, calculating, demanding, and instead soften into trust, space opens. That space is not emptiness, it's magnetism. It's the opening through which quantum possibilities can enter. You may think control protects you, but what it really does is shield you from receiving what's already moving toward you. The moment you choose presence over prediction, you begin to align with the timeline where flow takes over and force fades away. Control is the mind's attempt to replace trust with tension. And ironically, it's the tension itself that delays what you deeply desire. Because the field doesn't respond to pressure, it responds to presence. And the truth is, trying to make something happen often ensures it never will. So if control isn't the answer, then what is the energy that actually draws reality to you? Without resistance? Energy is not something you control, it's something you allow. And the moment you try to hold it too tightly, you interrupt its rhythm. Just like water needs space to flow, energy needs openness to move and take shape. When you grip life with the need to control outcomes, what you're really doing is shrinking the very space through which manifestation happens. You may not realize it, but the act of constantly checking, overanalyzing, or seeking confirmation sends a vibrational message of mistrust and fear. It's like clenching your fists while expecting to receive. Nothing can enter when you're closed. Imagine someone navigating a relationship with constant texts, questions, worries about being left or not being enough. That pressure chokes the connection, not because of lack of love, but because energy becomes blocked by insecurity. The same applies to money, success, or health. The more tightly you try to manage every detail, the more the quantum field mirrors your contraction. Because energy follows permission, not pressure. Control might feel like you're doing something, but often it's the very reason nothing is happening. Manifestation is not a transaction, it's a transmission. And the signal you send when you try to control is one of fear, not flow. So as long as your need for control is greater than your trust in the field, your results will feel delayed, distorted, or disappear altogether. The tighter you grip, the more the field slips through your hands. This is not punishment, it's reflection. The universe does not restrict you. Your need for control does. And yet, if we know that control blocks flow, why do we still keep doing it? Why do we return to the same tension, the same pattern, the same grip? The answer lies not in the conscious mind, but in something deeper that has been conditioned to equate control with safety. And until we meet that pattern with awareness, we'll keep tightening the very knot we're trying to untangle. The ego was raised in a world that worships effort, applauds struggle, and measures worth by how much you do. So it makes sense that we confuse doing more with deserving more. We've been trained to believe that manifestation must be earned, that results come from sheer consistency, pressure, and pushing. But manifestation doesn't work like a paycheck. The field doesn't calculate effort, it reflects energy. You can meditate for hours, journal for pages, visualize daily, and still be vibrating from fear, pressure, and misalignment. The truth is, many people turn spiritual practices into subtle forms of control. They light the candle, chant the affirmation, do the technique, but underneath it all is an energy of, I still don't have it. That vibration speaks louder than any ritual. Consider the person who wakes up every morning, sits in stillness, and immediately checks how long they've meditated, what result they've gotten, what needs to be fixed or improved. They may be doing all the right things, but the energy underneath is still trying to manage the outcome. The ego doesn't understand surrender. It only understands systems. It works to earn. But the field responds when you return. Return to presence. Return to clarity. Return to your natural state of alignment without the agenda. When you are no longer trying to force a result, the space around you begins to relax, and that's when energy begins to move. Because results don't come when you prove you're ready. They come when you no longer need to prove anything at all. So if neither effort nor control guarantees manifestation, then what does? What really causes the collapse of potential into form? What shifts the unseen into the seen? The answer has nothing to do with trying harder and everything to do with shifting your state. Let's step into the next level of clarity and finally explore what the field is truly responding to. There is a field of energy surrounding you right now. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but it's there woven into the fabric of everything. This isn't philosophy, it's physics. Quantum physicists call it the unified field, the field of infinite potential. Within it exists every possibility, every outcome, every version of reality you could ever imagine. Not as physical matter yet, but as pure wave, pure energy, waiting to collapse into form. Think of it like Wi-Fi. You can't see the signal, but you know it's present. And when you use the right device, you connect instantly. A quantum field is the same. It responds not to your words, but to your signal, your frequency, your energetic state. You are the device. Your thoughts, emotions, and state of being are the password. And the field is always listening, always reflecting. Just because it's invisible doesn't mean it's inactive. It doesn't need your belief to exist. But your belief does determine how you interact with it. The quantum field doesn't judge, doesn't favor effort, and doesn't require logic. It only reflects clarity. This means that when your signal is fragmented, when you doubt, fear, or try to force your connection, is weak, unstable. But when you are calm, focused, and energetically aligned, the field mirrors back the version of reality that matches your state. You don't have to scream to be heard. You don't need to beg to be seen. You just need to become the frequency of what you desire. Every moment, you are either aligning with the future or repelling it, not by your actions alone, but by your energy. So the real question becomes, how do you actually communicate with this unseen force? How do you make your energy coherent enough to connect with clarity? The field is ready. It's waiting. The password is presence. And the next step is to learn how to speak the language it understands. Let's go deeper and uncover exactly how you begin to send a clear signal into the quantum field and watch reality start to respond. Now that you understand the quantum field is always present and listening, here's the key. You're not speaking to it through words. The field doesn't recognize your affirmations, your mantras, or even your logic. It doesn't speak English or any spoken language. It speaks vibration. What you feel, what you believe deep in your nervous system, what you embody in silence. That is the true communication. Science has shown that your emotional state sends a measurable energy signature into your environment. Your heart's rhythm, your breath, your chemistry, they all contribute to a frequency that radiates far beyond your body. This is what the field responds to. Not the statement, "I am abundant," but whether your entire system actually believes it. If you say, "I love myself," while still carrying shame, the field doesn't read your sentence. It reads the tension, the misalignment, because energy cannot lie. That's why two people can say the same words, do the same rituals, follow the same steps, but get completely different results. One is aligned, the other is fragmented. You don't manifest from the surface. You manifest from the signal underneath. The universe mirrors your state, not your sentences. This is why presence matters more than practice. This is why feeling matters more than phrasing. It's not about getting the words right. It's about becoming the vibration that matches what you desire. So if your energy says, "I'm lacking," and no matter how many times you repeat, "I am wealthy," the field only hears the lack. When your emotions, beliefs, and body align into a coherent signal, that's when the field responds with precision. This is not magic, it's resonance. And resonance creates reality. So let go of speaking to the field like it's listening to your voice. Start treating it like it's reading your soul. Because it is. Your vibration is your language. And the clearer you become in your energy, the faster the field reflects a reality that matches. So the next time you wonder why things aren't shifting, ask yourself this: not "what am I saying?" but "what am I radiating?" Because that frequency is already reshaping the world around you. Now, let's uncover how this wave becomes a physical event. Once you understand that the field hears your vibration, not your words, the next realization is even deeper. It doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are. This is the most misunderstood truth in manifestation. Wanting something sends out a frequency of not having it. Being something radiates the signature of already having received. In quantum mechanics, this shift is called wave collapse. A particle doesn't exist in a defined form until it's observed. Until then, it's just a possibility, a wave of infinite outcomes. Your energy is that observer. When you shift into the vibration of certainty, peace, and alignment, your very presence causes one potential in the field to collapse into form. Reality doesn't respond to your desire. It responds to your embodiment. You don't attract success by chasing it. You become success and allow the field to catch up. It's not about effort. It's about frequency. Think of it like tuning a radio. If you want to hear a specific station, you don't scream at the radio to change. You tune yourself to the right frequency. Then the signal comes in clear. The same is true with the field. When you live from the vibration of already having, even before there's physical proof, the universe begins organizing matter to match your new state. This is not pretending. This is quantum identity. This is who you are beneath the fear, the effort, and the stories. The more consistently you embody this version of you, the faster the old reality fades and the new one locks into place. You don't need to see results first. You become the result before it shows. That is how the field responds. Not to the voice that asks, but to the being that knows. Now the question becomes this: what actually activates the collapse? What turns a wave into a solid form? And how do we direct that process consciously? The answer lives inside your attention. And in part 3, you'll begin to see how focus doesn't just guide thought, it guides reality itself. Everything you've ever believed to be real is more fluid than you think. Reality is not a solid object, it's a responsive canvas. In quantum physics, every particle exists as a wave of probabilities until it's observed. That means there are countless potential versions of your life available in the field, all waiting to be selected. The moment you give something your focused attention, the wave collapses and one version materializes. This is not philosophy, it's science. The famous double-slit experiment proves it. When particles are not being observed, they behave like waves moving in all directions. But when observed, they instantly shift and act like particles, locking into a specific pattern. Your awareness doesn't just watch the world, it molds it. This is the observer effect in action. Life is not happening to you, it's responding to you. Your focus acts as a cosmic selector, picking one timeline from an infinite menu of outcomes. Think of reality like a streaming service with millions of shows playing simultaneously. You don't see them all. You only see what you've selected. The same principle applies to your life. What you repeatedly focus on becomes the dominant signal your field reflects. If you constantly notice what's missing, you collapse the version of reality where lack is central. But when you focus on gratitude, peace, or abundance, even subtly, you begin tuning your energy to a version of life that matches those qualities. You don't need to understand every scientific detail to benefit from this. Just know that your attention is powerful. It is the gateway through which energy becomes form. You don't have to change the whole world. You only need to change where you're looking. The field will take care of the rest. And the best part is, you can do this anytime, anywhere, in any moment, by simply shifting what you focus on. The question is, what version of reality have you been selecting by default? And what would happen if you chose differently now? In the next segment, we'll explore how to train your focus to become your most reliable creative force. If your attention is the gateway, then focus is the frequency that holds that gateway open. Every time you sustain your awareness on a thought, an image, or a feeling long enough, you amplify its vibrational signal. That signal is what begins to pull one specific possibility out of the infinite field and into visible form. It's not about effort, it's about resonance. Imagine every potential outcome in your life already exists, like radio stations constantly broadcasting. You don't create the station. You simply tune your dial. The field responds by collapsing that frequency into a tangible experience. That's how manifestation actually works. It's not magic. It's physics guided by emotional clarity. Just like holding your hand on a tuning fork long enough causes the air around it to vibrate at the same tone. Your consistent focus causes your environment to echo back what you've been emitting. When someone visualizes success every day, not just mentally but emotionally, and their actions align with that internal picture, they begin to live in sync with that version of themselves. Not because they forced it, but because they stayed on that channel long enough for reality to reflect it. Focus is not passive. It is an energetic statement to the universe saying, "This is who I am now." But here's the catch. If your focus is scattered, if you jump from doubt to belief, from fear to hope, the signal becomes distorted. And when the signal is weak or inconsistent, the field doesn't know what to reflect. You get mixed results, delayed outcomes, or worse, nothing at all. This is why focus is more than just thinking about what you want. It's becoming emotionally anchored to the version of reality you choose. It's about showing up each day with clarity, even when the outer world hasn't caught up yet. So the next time you feel like things aren't happening fast enough, don't push harder, get clearer. Reality doesn't bend to pressure. It responds to precision. And the more precise your energetic broadcast becomes, the faster your desired timeline finds you. But what happens when you keep changing the station? Let's explore that in the next segment. When your signal is scattered, reality can't lock onto a single outcome. It stays floating in the realm of possibility, never forming anything tangible. The quantum field doesn't respond to fleeting thoughts, it responds to steady frequency. If your mind is jumping from hope to fear, trust to doubt, clarity to confusion, then your energy is broadcasting static. And static never turns into a song. Imagine trying to tune into a radio station, but every 3 seconds you switch the dial. No matter how powerful the transmission, you'll never hear the full melody. That's exactly what happens when you waver in your desires, shift between opposing emotions, or send mixed signals to the field. You are constantly interrupting the flow before it can crystallize. The field is listening, always, but it mirrors what you consistently hold, not what you briefly touch. If in the morning you affirm abundance, but by the afternoon you're consumed by worry, comparison, or self-doubt, your vibration becomes fragmented. That fragmentation creates delay, resistance, and stagnation. Not because the field is punishing you, but because it simply cannot collapse into form what isn't consistently held. It's not personal, it's physics. A scattered vibration does not create clarity, it creates limbo. And the longer you stay in that state, the more it feels like your manifestations aren't working, which then fuels more doubt and resets the cycle. This is why so many people feel stuck. They're pouring energy into the field, but that energy is constantly changing direction. Manifestation isn't about doing more or trying harder. It's about being energetically coherent. It's about deciding what you want, aligning with it emotionally, and then stabilizing that signal long enough for the field to reflect it back to you. Consistency is magnetic. Fragmentation repels. So if your life feels like it's paused between timelines, ask yourself, what signal am I actually sustaining? Because the universe isn't confused. It's waiting for you to choose one reality and stop switching channels. And now that you understand what scattered energy creates, the real question becomes, how do you return to coherence? Let's answer that in the next part. Chaos within always becomes confusion without. In the quantum world, there's a principle called decoherence. It happens when a system loses alignment, and the result is a breakdown in clarity. Reality collapses, but not into something clear. Instead, it forms an incoherent version of potential, a distorted reflection of scattered input. The same happens with your energy. When your emotional world is unstable, your vibration becomes a mixture of signals, and the field doesn't know which one to reflect. But here's the truth: the field is never confused. You are. The field only mirrors what's steady. So if one part of you desires deep love, but another part fears abandonment, the signal becomes conflicting. You attract someone who shows up inconsistently, loves you halfway, and disappears when you need depth. It's not because you're broken or unworthy. It's because your inner world is sending mixed instructions. The quantum field simply reflects the signal it receives with exact precision. It doesn't respond to what you want for a moment. It responds to what you live in energetically day after day. That's why it's possible to desire something beautiful, yet keep manifesting its opposite. It's not that the desire isn't real. It's that the dominant frequency underneath is still shaped by fear, doubt, or unresolved pain. When your inner weather shifts, every hour sunshine one moment, storm the next, your outer world becomes just as unpredictable. This isn't punishment. It's feedback. It's a powerful invitation to look inward and realign the signal. Because coherence isn't just about calmness, it's about clarity. When your desires, beliefs, and emotions start moving in the same direction, the field has no choice but to comply. It always listens. But it listens to harmony, not noise. And now that you see how emotional chaos creates energetic confusion, the next question naturally arises. Where does this internal chaos really come from? What is the hidden root of this disconnection? Because when you trace it back, you'll see it's not really about the world outside. It's about one thing inside that's been calling the shots without your awareness. Let's go there now and uncover it. If emotional chaos creates confusion in the field, then conflicting signals are what keep reality frozen in potential. You cannot simultaneously desire something with all your heart while fearing it deep down in your nervous system. Those two signals cancel each other out. In physics, this is called destructive interference. When two opposing waves meet, they neutralize each other, and no signal passes through. That's exactly what happens when your conscious desire and subconscious fear collide. The quantum field doesn't respond to the words, "I am wealthy," when underneath, your gut tightens every time you open a bill. It doesn't collapse into love when you say you're ready, but your heart still guards itself from past wounds. This is not judgment, it's clarity. Split energy equals zero movement. It's not that you're doing something wrong. It's that your vibration is sending static instead of a clear signal. The field doesn't punish confusion. It simply mirrors it. And most of the time, this split isn't even in your thoughts. It's buried in your emotional body. You may think you're aligned, but if you haven't brought healing to the fear, the resentment, or the guilt that lingers beneath the surface, then you're still broadcasting uncertainty. You cannot fake alignment. You must feel it. Coherence is not perfection, it's congruence. It's when your desire, your belief, and your feeling all say the same thing at the same frequency. That's when the field collapses with ease. That's when manifestation becomes a natural consequence, not a desperate chase. And that's why many people feel stuck, because they're doing everything right on the surface. But the emotional frequency they're carrying tells a different story. So if manifestation feels blocked, the answer is not to try harder, it's to listen deeper. Not just to what you want, but to what part of you might still be afraid to receive it. Because unhealed emotions carry more vibrational weight than repeated affirmations. And when left unresolved, they become the static that distorts the signal. So what's the next step? It's time to look inward, not just with awareness, but with radical honesty and compassion. Let's begin that now. So if the emotional static within you is blocking the signal, then understanding that turbulence is not just inconvenient, it's foundational. Strong emotions like anger, anxiety, and regret, when left unprocessed, don't just live in your mind, they scramble your entire vibrational output. They distort your signal in ways that make the field hesitate, not because it judges you, but because your frequency is not steady enough for collapse. Imagine tuning into a radio station, but the antenna keeps shaking. The music fades in and out. That's what happens when your nervous system is in overdrive, flooded with cortisol and unresolved pain. Your energy becomes unstable, your emotions spike and crash, and the field receives a mixed broadcast that cannot stabilize. You might say you're ready for love, but if your body still tightens with mistrust, the field hears, "not safe." You might ask for abundance, but if guilt sits beneath the request, the field picks up, "not worthy." This is why nervous system regulation is not just about well-being, it's about coherence. Your emotions are not enemies, they're messengers. But when you suppress them, or let them spiral without integration, they hijack your ability to manifest. Your field can't collapse into form when your signal is stuttering. That's why emotional work is quantum work. The field responds to stability, not strategy. It's not about how many techniques you practice. It's about the clarity of your inner state. The quieter your nervous system, the clearer your message. The more grounded your heart, the stronger your pull. This isn't about silencing emotions. It's about moving with them, holding space for them, and releasing them so that your true frequency can emerge without distortion. Because manifestation is not about force, it's about fidelity. You don't create from the mind. You create from the body that believes. And when your body is calm, your signal is clear. So the real question is not what you want, but how willing are you to let your nervous system feel safe receiving it? And now, let's explore how to bring that clarity and coherence back into your field, one steady breath at a time. Every moment you place your attention on something, you're not just looking at it, you're altering it. This is the essence of the observer effect, one of the most astonishing discoveries in quantum physics. In the double-slit experiment, particles behave like waves full of infinite possibilities until someone observes them. Then, the wave collapses and one version materializes. This means reality is not fixed, it's fluid until your focus chooses. Your gaze is not passive, it is the architect of experience. And this principle doesn't just apply to particles, it applies to your life. Whatever you repeatedly observe, emotionally or mentally, begins to take form. If you keep focusing on your limitations, they become more solid. If you keep focusing on expansion, opportunity, and ease, that is what begins to shape around you. But here's what most people miss. It's not just where your attention goes. It's the energy behind your attention that determines the outcome. If your attention is charged with fear, you're not collapsing reality, you're reinforcing resistance. If your attention is infused with openness and curiosity, you become a match to the field's most fluid and abundant possibilities. Think of attention like sunlight. It nourishes whatever it touches. You can grow weeds or you can grow flowers. And the field doesn't judge. It simply responds to your consistency. When you pay attention to beauty, you amplify it. When you observe yourself with compassion, you change. When you focus on what's missing, the void grows. You don't need to chase your manifestations. You only need to sustain your attention on what matches your highest vibration. This is why distraction is the real thief of destiny, because it scatters your creative power across a dozen timelines, none of which stabilize. Your power is not in effort, it's in attention. And when you learn to stabilize your focus, you stabilize the version of reality that reflects it. So, now ask yourself, are you observing from wholeness or from lack? From fear or from flow? Because your answer is not just a mindset, it's a frequency. And the field is listening. Let's explore how to reclaim that signal and bring your awareness into alignment with what you truly desire. Your consciousness is not a passive observer drifting through a predetermined world. It is the very force that selects and shapes the timeline you walk through. The quantum field exists as a sea of infinite potential, waiting for a directive, and you're focused. Awareness is that directive. Every thought held with emotional energy, every visual you revisit with intention, every inner narrative you repeat with belief, sends a precise signal into the field. That signal doesn't merely float, it interacts, it instructs, it chooses. The moment you hold an image of your life with unwavering clarity, you initiate collapse. Possibility becomes form. Vibration becomes matter. This isn't metaphysics, it's mechanics. And your consciousness is the instrument that selects which version of reality solidifies. Just like tuning into a radio station, your awareness locks onto a particular frequency, and the rest fades from access. That is why fear, doubt, and indecision can feel so exhausting. They tune you to unstable timelines where nothing quite locks in. But the opposite is also true. When you hold a vision of peace, success, or connection with inner certainty, the world begins to rearrange in response. You see opportunities that once blended into the background. You meet people who seem to arrive by accident, but carry the exact momentum you need. You walk into scenes that feel like echoes of your inner landscape. And it's not because the universe suddenly changed. It's because your focus collapsed one version of reality into visibility. You don't wait for life to happen. You observe it into happening. But this kind of observation only works when your energy is coherent, when your state of being is stable and aligned with the outcome you claim to desire. Scattered awareness leads to scattered results. But when your consciousness becomes a steady flame, it becomes a lighthouse that calls your chosen future to shore. So the question is no longer if something will manifest, it's whether your attention is stable enough to hold the version of reality you're calling in. From this place, we move deeper into the relationship between frequency, embodiment, and the kind of presence that magnetizes without force. Once you realize that your attention selects your reality, the next awakening comes with understanding your role, not as a passive receiver of life's randomness, but as an active projector of your own energetic film. You are not a satellite, waiting for signals. You are the transmitter. The quantum field doesn't hand you experiences from nowhere. It mirrors, it echoes, it reflects the signals you broadcast from the core of your emotional and mental state. Imagine holding a projector in your hands, but instead of reels of film, you load it with your most repeated thoughts, your strongest emotions, your internal stories. If the reel is filled with fear, doubt, resentment, or shame, the screen in front of you will display scenes that match that energy. But change the reel, shift the emotion, adjust the vibration, elevate the story, and the entire scene transforms. Life starts to feel different because you are radiating something different. This is not positive thinking. This is energetic authorship. This is remembering that you are not the character watching the plot unfold. You are the light behind the entire projection. And if that light is distorted by emotional turbulence, by inner conflict, by unprocessed pain, the projection becomes unclear, fragmented, chaotic. But when your internal signal becomes steady, when you align with clarity, trust, and intention, you don't have to fix what appears on the outside. You simply change what's being sent from the inside. You are the source of the frequency that materializes the form. So the question is never whether life is unfair or random. The question is always, what movie are you projecting right now? Your reality is not arriving from outside of you. It is being decoded and formed in response to the energy you transmit. And when you begin to take ownership of that power, you no longer wait for the world to change. You become the signal that starts the change. So now, let's dive deeper into how your internal state either scrambles that light or brings it into coherence, because what you project only becomes powerful when your energy is emotionally clear and vibrationally stable. Manifestation is not about effort. It is about energetic precision. In the quantum world, coherence is the language that reality understands. Imagine a flashlight scattering light in all directions. Now imagine a laser, focused and precise. That's the difference between a scattered frequency and a coherent one. When your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and nervous system are aligned in harmony, your energetic signature becomes a clear signal. The quantum field responds to clarity, not confusion. It mirrors consistency, not contradiction. You don't need to convince the field with louder affirmations or longer meditations. You need to radiate with unwavering alignment. Two people may say the same affirmation, but only one sees results. Why? Because while one is speaking from a place of doubt, hoping their words will override their fear, the other is embodying those words with calm certainty. Their body, mind, and emotional state are coherent, and that signal cuts through noise like a laser through fog. The field doesn't speak English or Spanish. It speaks vibration, and coherence is the clearest language you can emit. It is what makes your frequency readable. Just like a radio must be properly tuned to pick up a clear station, your internal energy must be tuned to the station of what you desire. That means no static, no conflicting frequencies, no hidden resistance. Coherence happens when you're no longer chasing, doubting, overthinking, or compensating. It's the natural state that emerges when your intention is pure, your emotion is stable, and your presence is strong. The field doesn't need you to try harder. It needs you to be clearer. When you hold a vibration of, "I already have it," without needing proof, without seeking confirmation, you collapse that possibility into form. Not because you earned it, but because you became it. And yet, most people struggle to stay in coherence. They wobble between belief and fear, between excitement and control, between trust and urgency. So the real question isn't whether the field works, it's whether your signal is stable enough for it to respond. And if it's not, Let's explore why that inner instability keeps showing up and how to finally restore your vibrational clarity. So if coherence is the language the field understands, misalignment is the static that distorts the message. This is where most people get stuck. They say all the right things, practice the affirmations, repeat the mantras, but beneath the surface, something doesn't match. Their energy is out of tune. Misalignment happens when your words are saying, "I am abundant," but your nervous system is still bracing for financial struggle. It happens when you declare, "I am worthy of love," but in the quiet moments, you feel unseen and not enough. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you are. You can't fake frequency. The field is not fooled by positive thinking layered on top of subconscious fear. It mirrors the signal you emit from your deepest truth, not the script you rehearse. That's why you can take all the right external actions and still feel like nothing is moving, because the signal being broadcast is scrambled. It's like trying to send a clear message on a cracked radio, distorted, glitchy, unreceived. When your energy is fragmented, your results are inconsistent. That's why manifestation can feel like a hit or miss game, but it's not about luck. It's about resonance. People often ask why they're not seeing changes despite doing the work. And the answer lies in the hidden split between their conscious desires and their subconscious beliefs. The part of them that affirms possibility is being counteracted by the part that still holds pain, doubt, or fear. And the field responds to the dominant signal, not the loudest one. Energy doesn't lie. It transmits your inner reality, not your outer routine. So the question is never what techniques you're using. It's what signal you're truly sending. And to shift that signal, you must do more than just say what you want. You must become the version of yourself who naturally emits it. That's not about effort. It's about internal congruence. And the key to restoring that congruence is learning how to regulate the very instrument that broadcasts your frequency, your nervous system, because that's where your true vibrational coherence begins. And in the next segment, we'll explore exactly how that inner stability creates outer precision. So if misalignment scatters your signal, alignment refines it into a laser. When your internal state is stable, when your energy is congruent with the version of you who already has what you seek, reality has no choice but to adjust accordingly. You no longer have to push, prove, or perform to make things happen. Life begins to respond effortlessly. Alignment isn't about doing more, it's about being more accurate. It's about clarity over quantity, vibration over volume. The person who is fully aligned doesn't chase love, money, or opportunity. They radiate the frequency of someone who already belongs in that timeline. Their actions may appear subtle, even minimal, but the results are undeniable. Because it's not about how hard they work, it's about how clean their signal is. They don't confuse movement with progress. They don't rely on a checklist of manifestation techniques to force reality into shape. They don't need to. Their field is already broadcasting a coherent invitation, and the quantum responds. One aligned signal speaks louder than 1,000 scattered affirmations. This is why some people seem to manifest with ease, while others struggle despite relentless effort. The difference isn't in strategy, it's in state. Alignment is not about acting like you have something. It's about embodying the version of you who would naturally receive it. It's about quiet confidence, not noisy control. When your energy is aligned, action becomes inspired. It flows from clarity, not from lack. And with every step, you confirm the reality you're selecting. This is how manifestation becomes a process of resonance, not resistance. You begin to notice that things show up without effort because the field isn't responding to your hustle. It's responding to your harmony. But if alignment is so powerful, why do most people stay stuck in the cycle of trying, doubting, and starting over? The answer lies not in what you know, but in what you practice. It lies in your emotional habits, your unconscious patterns, and the hidden need to control outcomes instead of trust the unfolding. And in the next part, we'll unravel why surrender not effort is the final portal into your aligned reality. You've probably heard the advice: do more, try harder, apply all the tools. And so, in an effort to accelerate your manifestations, you dive into scripting, breathwork, shadow work, visualizations, mantras, subliminals, journaling, tapping, and on and on. But rather than strengthening your energy, this scattered devotion begins to dilute it. Because alignment isn't created by how many techniques you apply. It's created by the clarity of your signal. Just like opening 20 apps on your phone doesn't make it run faster. It clogs the system and drains the battery, overloading your energy field with mixed intentions, weakens your coherence. You feel the burnout, but don't recognize the cause. You think you're not doing enough, so you double down. But more doing doesn't mean more attracting. It means more scattering. It means your field is busy trying to keep up with all the methods without anchoring into one clear message. Imagine trying to speak 10 languages at once. No one hears you clearly. That's what your energy field experiences when you try every method hoping one will work. It's not that the techniques are wrong. It's that the desperation behind them is muddying the waters. When your actions come from lack, even spiritual actions, they carry the vibration of lack. So even while meditating, journaling, and visualizing, you may still be emitting doubt, fear, and confusion. The result is that nothing materializes because the field is receiving 20 different signals and doesn't know which one to collapse. You begin to feel spiritually exhausted, emotionally scattered, and mentally overworked. And still, results feel distant. Why? Because you've fallen into the trap of doing without anchoring, performing without aligning. It's not that effort is wrong. It's that unaligned effort creates energetic static. So what's the way out of this spiral? It's not about adding more. It's about refining your frequency and committing to consistency. Because the truth is, the field doesn't reward who does the most. It responds to who holds the clearest signal. And that clarity doesn't come from your schedule. It comes from your center. So the real question becomes, are you choosing your method from alignment or from fear of missing out? In the next segment, we'll uncover how your inconsistent spiritual choices might be silently sabotaging the very clarity you seek. Once you fall into the loop of over-efforting, the next trap is inconsistency. You begin jumping from one spiritual method to another, hoping each one will finally unlock the shift you seek. One day, it's scripting. The next, it's energy clearing. Then it's shadow work, or breath retention, or chanting, or releasing. But here's the secret most people miss. Each method carries a unique frequency. Every time you switch your method, you also switch your signal. And the field reads signals, not strategies. It's like calling the universe, but hanging up every 10 seconds to try a new number. Imagine tuning into a radio station, then flipping the dial before the song even starts. That's what your field experiences when you hop methods without grounding into one. It receives bursts of unclear energy, never enough to create collapse. You don't allow time for resonance to build. And so, nothing happens. Not because you're broken or unworthy, but because you keep starting over. You might think you're exploring, but energetically, you're stuttering. One moment you declare, I am abundant. The next, I'm healing. Then I surrender. Then I deserve. And while all are valid intentions, the constant shifting dilutes their power. The field doesn't know which version of you to reflect. Your identity becomes unstable. Your signal becomes noise. The more often you change frequencies, the less time each has to generate momentum. results begin to fade. Discouragement creeps in. You question the process, the tools, and even yourself. But the issue was never the method. It was the instability behind it. Alignment is not about perfection. It's about energetic constancy. Just like muscles grow from consistent repetition, manifestation flows from stable resonance. When you hold one signal long enough, the field has something to respond to. Otherwise, it just mirrors your indecision. So take a moment to reflect. Are you shifting techniques to avoid stillness? Are you seeking results or avoiding discomfort? Because if you're always tuning out of your own inner station, no truth can come through. And when that inner clarity begins to fade, something far more subtle and more damaging starts to happen. Let's explore that next. When you constantly change your frequency, you not only confuse the field, you begin to forget the power of your own presence. And that's when you lose clarity. But clarity doesn't come from complexity. It comes from simplicity. It comes from choosing one signal, one state of being, and holding it with quiet conviction. Simplicity strengthens the signal. Not because it's easy, but because it's unwavering. In electronics, when there's less interference, the signal becomes stronger. In manifestation, when there's less mental noise, emotional chaos, or spiritual overcomplication, your energetic broadcast becomes laser sharp. The field doesn't need volume. It needs precision, and precision is born from stillness. From doing less but meaning more. A person who starts each morning with a single affirmation and truly believes it, feels it, and lives by it may create faster shifts than someone juggling 10 techniques with scattered faith. Because it's not about doing everything. It's about doing one thing clearly. Energy doesn't measure effort. It measures alignment. So simplify. Strip away the extras. Tune in to what actually resonates. Choose one practice, one emotion, one identity, and sit in it until it becomes you. When you commit to simplicity, you remove friction. You stop second-guessing. You stop comparing. And suddenly, your vibration stabilizes. The fog clears. The signal pierces through the noise of resistance. One pure signal, broadcast with confidence and consistency, will outshine 1,000 scattered ones. You don't need to be everywhere. You just need to be fully present right here. Every great shift begins with a return to simplicity, to being rather than doing, to presence rather than performance. Because when your signal is clean, reality has no choice but to mirror it. And now, the question becomes, how do you amplify that simple, coherent signal even more? How do you embody the version of you that doesn't try to make reality bend, but becomes the kind of frequency that reality naturally follows? Let's explore that in the next part. You don't need another method. What you truly need is clarity. Not a new ritual, not a secret technique, not another book or course to chase. What you need is the courage to pause and feel what energy you're really transmitting beneath all the surface intentions. Because most people don't realize it, but while they're affirming abundance, they're radiating scarcity. While they're visualizing love, they're vibrating fear. While they're saying, I trust, their nervous system is locked in control. The field doesn't respond to your words. It responds to the signal behind them. And if the signal is unclear, reality will reflect that lack of clarity back to you. It's like saying yes with your mouth, but whispering, I'm not ready with your heart. The universe doesn't hear what you say. It reads what you are. And this is the breakthrough most people never reach. They look for the next step, the next hack, the next strategy, but they never stop to ask, what energy am I actually living in every day? Because if you're not aware of your default frequency, you're sending mixed messages to the field without even knowing it. Imagine someone who reads every book on manifestation, listens to every audio, writes 100 affirmations, yet deep inside, they still doubt, still compare, still fear. That's not clarity. That's noise. The field isn't confused. Your energy is. And until you meet your own frequency with honesty, you'll keep spinning in circles, wondering why things aren't shifting. The truth is, the clearer your signal, the simpler life becomes. You stop chasing alignment and start living it. And clarity begins the moment you stop performing and start listening to your own emotional tone, your thoughts, your reactions, your body. Your vibration speaks louder than your voice ever will. And now, the only question is, how do you clean your signal and keep it stable long enough for reality to catch up? In the next part, we'll discover the practices and awareness tools that help you tune your frequency, not by force, but by deep presence. Let's go there together. Stability beats strategy every single time. You can have the most elaborate vision board, the most advanced techniques, and the perfect morning routine. But if your emotional frequency is a storm, the field will only hear static. Because manifestation isn't about what you do now and then, it's about what you consistently are. The energy you carry day after day becomes your signature, and the universe only responds to that steady signal. When your emotions rise and fall like waves in a storm, your vibration becomes incoherent. And incoherent energy has no magnetic strength. Science shows us that the electromagnetic field of the heart is the most powerful in the body, and that coherence in heart rhythms creates stability in the body's energy field. In other words, when you are emotionally regulated, your entire energetic system becomes more stable, more readable, more powerful. Think of it like tuning a radio. A clear frequency needs consistent transmission. One day of gratitude doesn't outweigh 6 days of doubt. One moment of peace doesn't override hours of panic. But someone who gently holds the same emotional tone each day, who wakes with gratitude, walks with calm, responds with grace, that person becomes a magnetic force without ever trying to manifest. It's not about perfection. It's about steadiness. Because the field doesn't care how advanced your rituals are. It cares how stable your state is. A stable frequency speaks louder than a perfect routine. And that's what most people miss. They're so focused on finding the best practice that they overlook the power of presence. True manifestation isn't about how much you can do. It's about how deeply you can be. And the more stable your being becomes, the more clearly the field reflects it back to you. So the real question is, how do you begin to stabilize that inner signal? How do you return to a calm, coherent frequency, no matter what's happening outside? Because that's the key to magnetic alignment. In the next part, we'll explore how to enter a clear state of being that doesn't flicker with circumstances, but stays rooted in the truth of your vibration. Let's continue. Being is the only technique you need. When your energy is coherent and your emotions are stable, the next step is not another tool, it's embodiment. Every manifestation method ever taught is simply a bridge meant to carry you into a state of being. But what if you started there? What if you didn't just affirm abundance, but lived as if you are already supported by it? What if you didn't visualize love, but felt so full of it that your very presence became magnetic? You collapse the field not by wanting, but by becoming. And when you become the frequency of your desire, there is no more chasing, no more convincing, no more delay. The field doesn't wait at mirrors. As Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches, you cannot create a new reality with the same personality. You must shift into the identity of the version of you who already has what you seek. It's not about acting or pretending. It's about aligning your nervous system, your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions into one steady signature of truth. Imagine someone who no longer asks when their dream will arrive, because they are already living as if it's here. Their energy radiates certainty. Their choices reflect confidence. Their words carry gratitude. The field has no choice but to respond, because it always reflects the clearest signal. You don't attract what you want. you attract what you are. That's the quantum truth most people miss while they're busy doing more. Your state of being is the instruction you send into the field, and it is that instruction, not your words, not your effort, that determines what collapses into form. So stop searching for the next secret. Stop shifting between frequencies. Stop postponing alignment until you feel ready. The moment you choose to be the version of yourself who already has it, you give the universe permission to deliver it. And now, as all the pieces align, as clarity replaces confusion, as being replaces seeking, it's time to bring it all together into one final, powerful transmission. Let's move forward into the integration. Part 9 begins now. The illusion of control is the greatest block to quantum flow. When you try to manage, fix, force, and micromanage every detail, you're not guiding energy, you're resisting it. True manifestation doesn't happen through clenched fists and furrowed brows. It happens through clear, open, aligned presence. Control is a behavior born from fear. It signals to the field that you not trust its intelligence, and in doing so, you create tension in your frequency. That tension scrambles your signal, distorts your alignment, and delays the response. Think of the person who obsessively edits their vision board every week, changes their affirmations daily, checks for signs every hour. Their actions may look intentional, but the field is not responding to their effort. It's reflecting their doubt. Control is noise. Clarity is magnetism. When your energy is sharp and steady, the field doesn't need more input. It responds to the clarity of your being. Just like a river, the quantum field flows where there is least resistance. But control builds dams, blocks currents, and suffocates possibilities. Have you ever noticed how the more you try to force something, the more it slips through your hands? That's not failure, that's feedback. The field cannot collapse a reality that is wrapped in hesitation, anxiety, or force. It can only mirror the frequency you hold when you're still, steady, and certain. Clarity is not about knowing every step, it's about knowing who you are and holding that knowing without needing proof. When you stop trying to push reality into place and instead embody the energy of already having it, the universe flows to meet you. So release the grip, loosen the rules, let go of timelines, trackers, and techniques that drain your power. Because what manifests is never born from stress, it emerges through surrender. And now, if control is what creates separation, then what truly brings us back into union with the field? What connects us to its infinite intelligence, not as outsiders, but as co-creators? In the next segment, we uncover the most powerful energetic bridge of all, the one element that realigns everything within and around you. If control creates resistance, then coherence creates magic. Coherence is not effort, noise, or force. It is pure alignment. When your thoughts reflect your desires, your emotions support those thoughts, and your actions move in the same direction, you become a coherent signal in the quantum field. That signal doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need repetition. It simply is. In the science of energetic medicine, the heart has an electromagnetic field that far exceeds the brain. That means when you truly feel something, gratitude, wholeness, peace, you're broadcasting a frequency powerful enough to influence the field directly. Coherence is not just a feel-good state. It is a transmission, a command, a bridge between inner truth and outer manifestation. Imagine someone who barely talks about goals, doesn't obsess over techniques, and yet everything seems to align. For them, they aren't lucky. They are aligned. Their internal world is stable, so the external world has no choice but to reflect that stability. A coherent being is a quantum command. The universe does not hesitate when your signal is pure. It mirrors back to you instantly because there's no static, no confusion, no contradiction. You don't need 10 techniques if you are emotionally clear. You don't need perfect words if your heart is steady. Coherence removes the need to chase because it is the frequency of already being. And when you embody that frequency, manifestation is not a question, it's a consequence. So the real power is not in learning more. It is in unifying what you already know, feel, and do. Let your inner alignment become the language you speak to the universe. And now, the final truth becomes clear. It was never about doing more. It was always about being more still, more clear, more honest with the frequency you hold. In our next and final segment, we return to the core realization that unlocks everything. Simplicity is not weakness, it is precision. It is the highest expression of power. When clarity becomes your natural state, creation becomes inevitable. You no longer try to manifest. You simply realize you've always been doing it. Every thought, every emotion, every subtle intention has already been interacting with the field. The difference now is you do it consciously. You become aware of the vibration behind your words, the feeling behind your desires, and the energy behind your presence. You shift from accidental creator to intentional architect. Simplicity, paired with deep awareness, becomes your greatest power. It's not about abandoning effort, but refining it. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing control so the field can respond more fluidly. When you stop pushing and start aligning, you activate a higher intelligence that knows the way better than your mind ever could. Imagine someone who is anxious, doubting, always trying to force outcomes. Then one day, they pause, they breathe, they step into presence. They drop the weight of proving and begin to trust. Without even realizing it, people show up, opportunities open, and life starts organizing itself in their favor. They didn't give up, they gave into their own frequency. That is the shift. Simplicity is not emptiness. It is precision. Awareness is not passivity. It is command. Together, they become the lens through which you consciously shape the quantum field. You're no longer projecting confusion. You're radiating coherence. You're no longer hoping for alignment. You are alignment. The most powerful creators don't do more. They see more, feel more, embody more of who they already are. They understand that the field doesn't need noise. It responds to knowing. So the question is no longer, how do I manifest? The question is, can I hold the signal of already having? Because that signal is the bridge from potential to form, from dream to physicality, from intention to experience. And now, with that truth anchored deep, we arrive at the most important moment, a return to your own voice. A final declaration, not to the world, but to the field. A statement that anchors everything you've learned into one frequency. I let it in. I let it be. I let it become real. The illusion of separation has always been the final veil. The moment you believe you are separate from the field, you create the experience of distance, of effort, of asking and waiting. But in truth, you are not outside reality trying to enter it. You are reality itself, unfolding moment by moment from the center of your being. Quantum physics and ancient spiritual traditions converge on this truth. Everything is connected. Everything is one. There is no edge where you end and the field begins. You are the wave and the ocean. You are not a spark pleading with the fire. You are the flame itself, dancing in form, shape, and vibration. When you shift from believing that you must ask the universe to recognizing that you are the universe, asking and answering in unison, something unlocks. You stop begging. You begin declaring. You stop waiting. You begin allowing. The energy of manifestation no longer feels like effort. It feels like remembering, like returning, like finally recognizing that the power was never outside you. It was you all along. The moment someone stops saying please to the field and starts saying I am, the entire frequency changes. That's when manifestations speed up. That's when synchronicity accelerates. That's when the outer world stops resisting and begins reflecting. Because the field isn't withholding anything. It's only mirroring the clarity you offer. And when your identity aligns with the field itself, you don't just influence reality. You become the very force that births it. There is no need to chase, no need to push, no need to try. Just the quiet power of knowing, of vibrating, of embodying the truth that the Creator and creation are one. You are never apart. You were never lost. You were simply unaware. But now you see. Now you know. And now it's time to speak from that place. Not to ask, not to hope, but to claim, to command, to anchor. Because when the field recognizes itself through you, reality flows without resistance. And that begins with a declaration, not from the lips, but from the frequency of being. Let's step into it now. Now that you remember who you are, it's time to anchor that identity not with effort, but with certainty. To declare with full presence, I am the field. This is not a metaphor. This is not a script to repeat without meaning. This is a frequency to live from. When you say those words, let them rise not from the mouth, but from the space behind it. Heart, the place where knowing lives. I am the field is not an affirmation. It is an activation. It's the moment your thoughts, emotions, and presence synchronize to form a coherent signal, so clear that the quantum responds without hesitation. Ancient rituals, sacred chants, and spoken invocations held power not because the words were magical, but because the people saying them believed in the energy behind the sound. When your identity is clear, your voice becomes a tuning fork. Every cell in your body vibrates in alignment. Every step you take broadcasts truth, and the field, being nothing but a mirror, reflects it back in kind. The practice is simple, but sacred. Wake up each day, and instead of asking for the life you want, become it. Stand in front of the mirror and say not someday, but now. Say not I hope, but I am. Let your entire nervous system absorb the signal. Let your breath carry it forward. Let your presence broadcast what is no longer a desire, but a fact. When someone declares, I am abundance, and walks with peace, generosity, and openness, the field arranges itself to match. When someone says, I am love, and forgives with ease, listens with compassion, and lives without fear, life reflects that truth without delay. You are not outside the miracle, hoping to be included. You are the miracle, remembering its own name. You are not calling something in. You are calling something forth. And when this identity becomes your natural state, effort fades and attraction becomes magnetic. You no longer chase. You align. You no longer plead. You embody. And from here, you step into a new level of awareness, where reality becomes a seamless reflection of being. Let's go deeper now. And now that you've claimed your true identity, not as someone seeking the light, but as the light itself, something begins to shift on a deeper level. You no longer ask, what should I do to get there? Instead, you begin to live the answer to a different question. Who must I become to already be there? This is the shift. From effort to embodiment. From waiting to being. From chasing to remembering. Manifestation was never about adding more. It was always about removing the layers of doubt, confusion, and fear that once made you forget your power. Everything you've explored in this journey, from releasing control, aligning your field, bringing coherence into your energy, all the way to affirming your divine presence, has not been a process of becoming more. It's been a process of coming home. Like someone who used to long for love, but one day chooses to treat themselves as worthy, whole, and complete, and then watches as life reflects that decision without needing to chase. This is where real creation begins. Not from trying to, attract, but from standing in the frequency that already has. You are not on the outside looking in. You are the one the universe has been waiting to remember. When you stop reaching and start radiating, the things you once ran after now begin to orbit around you. Your stillness becomes magnetic. Your presence becomes your message. This is the moment where wanting fades and being takes its place. And from this still and sovereign place, you begin a new chapter, one where the outer world bends to the truth of your inner state. In episode 3, we'll go deeper into this energetic transformation and explore the mechanics of shifting from desire to embodiment, from need to knowing. If this message moved something inside you, take a moment to like, comment, and share your insight below. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel so you never miss what's coming next. The field is always listening. And now, it's time to speak your truth, not with words, but with your being.